Welcome to our channel HD Rare Coin 111, your go-to spot for uncovering the incredible world of rare US coins. If you've ever wondered if your old pennies, nickels, or dimes are worth more than face value, you're about to find out. In today's video, we'll be exploring some truly rare coins and their shocking values. And if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. So let's jump in. Top 1. The year 1965 marked a major turning point in American history. The country was in the midst of the Vietnam War, the civil rights movement was at its peak, and cultural shifts were reshaping society. But for coin collectors, 1965 was significant for another reason. It was the year the U.S. Mint made one of the most dramatic changes in American coinage history. That change directly affected the Washington Quarter, making the 1965 Washington Quarter one of the most intriguing coins ever struck. Before 1965, quarters were made of 90% silver and 10% copper. This composition had been in place since the very first Washington Quarter was struck in 1932. However, by the early 1960s, silver prices were rising rapidly, and people began hoarding silver coins. As a result, the U.S. Mint faced a severe coin shortage. To combat this crisis, the government decided to remove silver from dimes and quarters entirely, replacing it with a copper-nickel-clad composition. The 1965 Washington Quarter was the first of its kind, marking the transition from silver to clad coinage. This decision was controversial at the time, as many Americans were reluctant to accept the new coins. They looked different, felt different, and most importantly, they lacked the intrinsic value that silver quarters had carried for decades. But despite the skepticism, the new clad quarters quickly became the standard, and the 1965 issue became a historic piece of numismatic history. The 1965 Washington Quarter retained the same design that had been in use since 1932. The obverse featured a portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. Above Washington's head, the word, Liberty, was inscribed, with the date, 1965, positioned below his profile. The motto, In God We Trust, was displayed to the left. On the reverse, the majestic bald eagle remained the focal point. The eagle, with its wings spread wide, perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches beneath it. The inscriptions, United States of America, and E Pluribus Unum, appeared above the eagle, while $quarter was struck at the bottom. While the design remained unchanged, the switch to a copper-nickel-clad composition meant the coin's appearance differed from previous silver quarters. Instead of a bright silver sheen, the new quarters had a duller, more metallic finish, and the edges revealed a distinctive copper-colored stripe. The 1965 Washington Quarter was produced in massive quantities at the Philadelphia Mint. To prevent people from hoarding quarters based on their mintmarks, the U.S. Mint temporarily halted the use of mintmarks on all coins from 1965 to 1967. As a result, every 1965 quarter lacks a mintmark, making it impossible to distinguish where it was produced. Due to the transition from silver to clad coinage, the U.S. Mint experimented with different striking techniques in 1965. Some coins were struck on leftover silver planchets by mistake, leading to one of the most famous mint errors in U.S. history. A small number of 1965 Washington quarters were accidentally struck on 90% silver planchets, making them incredibly rare and valuable. The most valuable 1965 quarters are those struck on silver planchets. These rare errors can be identified by their lack of a copper core. The easiest way to check is by weighing the coin. A regular clad quarter weighs 5.67 grams. While a silver quarter weighs 6.25 grams. High-grade examples of these error coins have sold for tens of thousands of dollars at auction. In addition to the silver planchet errors, some 1965 Washington quarters exhibit doubling in their design, particularly in the inscriptions or Washington's profile. These double-die varieties are highly sought after by collectors, with well-preserved examples fetching thousands of dollars. Despite being one of the most common quarters ever produced, the 1965 Washington Quarter has gained a strong following among collectors. Its historical significance as the first clad quarter, combined with the rarity of silver planchet errors and double die varieties, makes it an essential piece for numismatists. Most circulated 1965 quarters are worth only face value, but high-grade uncirculated examples can command significant premiums. Coins graded MS65 or higher are much scarcer than lower-grade pieces, and those with exceptional luster and detail are especially desirable. One of the most extraordinary 1965 Washington quarters ever discovered was a silver planchet error in pristine condition. When it went up for auction, collectors battled fiercely for ownership, and in the end, it sold for an astonishing $135,000. For those hoping to find a valuable 1965 Washington quarter, the key is careful examination. Checking old rolls of quarters, searching through pocket change, or acquiring unsearched bank rolls can sometimes yield hidden treasures. Weighing quarters with a digital scale is an easy way to spot a potential silver error, and using a magnifying glass can help identify doubling or other valuable anomalies. Even though the 1965 Washington quarter is common in circulation, its history, errors, and high-value specimens make it a fascinating coin to study and collect. It represents a pivotal moment in American numismatics, the transition from silver to clad coinage, while still offering collectors the thrill of discovering rare and valuable varieties. The story of the 1965 Washington quarter is a reminder that even ordinary-looking coins can hold extraordinary value. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting your numismatic journey, this quarter serves as proof that treasures can still be found in everyday pocket change. So keep your eyes open, examine your coins closely, and who knows? You might just come across a rare 1965 Washington quarter worth a small fortune. Top 2. The year 1971 was a time of transformation in the United States. The Vietnam War was still ongoing, inflation was beginning to rise, and the American economy was undergoing changes that would shape the nation's future. Amid all these shifts, the U.S. Mint continued producing one of the most iconic coins in circulation, the Washington Quarter. While at first glance, the 1971 Washington Quarter might seem like just another everyday coin, hidden within its mintage are rare varieties and errors that make it highly desirable among collectors. Some of these rare quarters have fetched jaw-dropping prices at auction, including one remarkable piece that sold for an astonishing $126,000. The Washington Quarter has been a staple of American coinage since 1932. Originally intended as a one-year commemorative coin to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, the design proved so popular that it became a permanent fixture in the nation's currency. The coin features a portrait of Washington on the obverse, designed by sculptor John Flanagan. The reverse showcases a majestic bald eagle perched on a bundle of arrows, symbolizing the nation's strength and readiness for defense. By 1971, the Washington Quarter had been in circulation for nearly 4 decades. However, it had undergone a significant change just 6 years earlier. Prior to 1965, quarters were composed of 90% silver and 10% copper. But rising silver prices led to widespread hoarding, prompting the U.S. government to switch to a copper-nickel-clad composition. This change meant that the 1971 Washington Quarter, like all quarters minted since 1965, had a core of pure copper sandwiched between layers of copper-nickel alloy. The transition from silver to clad coinage was not without its challenges. The U.S. Mint had to refine its minting process to ensure the new coins struck up properly. As a result, some early clad quarters suffered from weak strikes, poor detail, and planchet issues. These quality control inconsistencies have made high-grade examples of the 1971 Washington Quarter particularly valuable today. In 1971, the U.S. Mint produced Washington quarters at 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 109 million quarters, while the Denver Mint produced more than 258 million. The San Francisco Mint, however, was primarily focused on proof coinage, creating just over 3 million proof quarters that year. The Philadelphia minted quarters did not carry a mint mark, while the Denver quarters were marked with a small D on the right side of the reverse, just above the eagle's tail feathers. The proof quarters struck in San Francisco carried an mintmark and were specially made for collectors. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1971 Washington Quarter is the existence of rare era coins. While most quarters from this year are worth their face value, a select few have sold for thousands, or even hundreds of thousands, of dollars. One of the most famous and valuable errors found in 1971 Washington quarters is the double die obverse variety. This type of error occurs when the coin's design is accidentally doubled during the striking process, leading to noticeable duplication in the lettering or other elements. In some cases, the words, "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" appear with significant doubling, making these quarters highly sought after by collectors. Depending on the severity of the doubling and the coin's condition, these errors can command substantial premiums. Another rare error occurs when a 1971 quarter is mistakenly struck on a leftover silver planchet from pre-1965 coinage. While the U.S. Mint had officially transitioned to clad coinage, occasional mistakes led to silver planchets being mixed into production. These rare silver-clad error quarters can be identified by their weight, 6.25 grams instead of the standard 5.67 grams for clad quarters. Collectors willing to search through rolls of quarters or check their change carefully might be lucky enough to find one of these rare silver-struck 1971 quarters. In addition to planchet errors and doubled dies, off-center strikes and missing clad layers also add to the intrigue surrounding the 1971 Washington quarter. Some quarters from this year show dramatic off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing due to the coin not being properly aligned during minting. Others display missing clad layers, exposing the pure copper core beneath, giving them a distinctive appearance. These errors, depending on their severity and condition, can fetch impressive prices at auction. Most circulated 1971 Washington quarters are only worth their face value. However, uncirculated examples with pristine surfaces and sharp details are much scarcer and more valuable. Coins graded MS-65 or higher by professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC can be worth several $100s, while those with rare errors can bring in thousands. One of the most remarkable sales of a 1971 Washington quarter occurred when a nearly flawless example with a major mint error was sold at auction. This extraordinary coin, which exhibited a combination of a double die obverse and a rare full strike with mirror-like luster, stunned collectors when it realized a final sale price of $126,000. Finding a valuable 1971 Washington quarter requires patience and a keen eye. Checking coin rolls from banks, searching through pocket change, and inspecting inherited coin collections can sometimes yield unexpected treasures. Using a magnifying glass to examine lettering for doubling, weighing suspicious quarters to check for silver planchets, and looking for off-center strikes are all useful techniques for identifying rare varieties. While the 1971 Washington quarter is not the rarest coin in circulation, its historical significance, unique errors, and high-grade specimens make it a fascinating piece for numismatists. It represents an era of change in American coinage, from the shift away from silver to the introduction of modern clad designs. The story of the 1971 Washington quarter reminds us that even ordinary-looking coins can hold extraordinary value. Whether you're an experienced collector or just starting your numismatic journey, keeping an eye out for these rare varieties could lead to an exciting discovery. So, the next time you come across a 1971 quarter, take a closer look. You might be holding a hidden fortune in your hands. Top 3. The 1983 Washington quarter is one of the most intriguing coins in modern American numismatics. At first glance, it may seem like just another piece of pocket change, but hidden within its history, mintage, and rare errors lies a story of exceptional value. Some collectors have discovered that certain 1983 Washington quarters are worth far more than their face value, with one outstanding example fetching an astonishing $92,000 at auction. To understand the significance of the 1983 Washington quarter, we must first go back to the origins of this beloved coin. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Designed by sculptor John Flanagan, the quarter's obverse features a left-facing portrait of the first U.S. president, with the inscriptions, "Liberty," and "In God We Trust," prominently displayed. The reverse showcases an American bald eagle, symbolizing strength and national pride, perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches below. Initially, the Washington Quarter was struck in 90% silver and 10% copper. However, as the price of silver began to rise in the 1960s, the U.S. Mint faced a dilemma. With people hoarding silver coins for their metal content, there was a shortage of quarters in circulation. In response, the government made a bold decision. Starting in 1965, all quarters would be made from a copper-nickel clad composition, eliminating silver from the design entirely. This transition ensured that quarters remained affordable to produce while preventing further hoarding. By 1983, the Washington Quarter had been in its clad composition for nearly 2 decades. The U.S. Mint produced these quarters in massive quantities to meet the needs of the growing economy. The 3 major mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, played a crucial role in striking these coins. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 673 million quarters, while the Denver Mint struck more than 617 million. The San Francisco Mint, however, focused solely on proof coinage, producing around 3.2 million quarters that year. Despite this high mintage, the 1983 Washington Quarter is surprisingly scarce in top grades. One major reason for this is the lack of government-issued mint sets for that year. Typically, the U.S. Mint releases uncirculated mint sets that allow collectors to obtain pristine examples of circulating coins. However, in 1982 and 1983, no official mint sets were released, meaning that collectors had no direct way of acquiring high-quality quarters. As a result, finding a 1983 Washington Quarter in mint state condition is much harder than for other years. Collectors seeking high-grade 1983 Washington Quarters must rely on coins that were set aside from circulation or carefully preserved by individuals at the time. Many of these quarters exhibit heavy wear, nicks, and scratches from years of use, making uncirculated examples highly desirable. Those that have been professionally graded as MS-65 or higher by organizations such as PCGS or NGC can command significant premiums. Another fascinating aspect of the 1983 Washington Quarter is the presence of rare errors and varieties that add to its value. One of the most famous errors is the doubled die obverse, where certain letters or features on the coin appear to be doubled due to a misalignment in the minting process. Quarters with this error show clear doubling in inscriptions such as Liberty or In God We Trust, making them highly sought after by collectors. Depending on the strength of the doubling and the coin's overall condition, these errors can fetch thousands of dollars. Additionally, some 1983 quarters have been discovered with missing clad layers. This type of error occurs when the nickel outer layer of the coin is not properly bonded to the copper core, resulting in a strikingly different appearance. A quarter missing its clad layer may show a full copper surface, making it instantly recognizable as an error coin. These rare pieces are often worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on their condition and how much of the clad layer is missing. Another rare error found on 1983 Washington quarters is the off-center strike. This occurs when the coin is not properly aligned within the press during minting, leading to an off-center design. The greater the misalignment, the more valuable the coin becomes. Quarters with extreme off-center strikes, where a significant portion of the design is missing, are particularly desirable among collectors. The value of a 1983 Washington Quarter varies widely depending on its condition and rarity. Circulated quarters, which show signs of wear, are generally only worth their face value. However, uncirculated examples in high grades can sell for impressive sums. In recent years, an extraordinary 1983 Washington Quarter made headlines when it sold for a record-breaking $92,000 at auction. This particular coin was not only in near-perfect condition but also featured a rare combination of errors that made it a one-of-a-kind specimen. The sharpness of its strike, the absence of significant flaws, and its rarity among surviving 1983 quarters contributed to its astonishing value. For collectors hoping to find a valuable 1983 Washington Quarter, the best strategy is to search through bank rolls, estate sales, and old coin collections. Paying attention to details such as strong luster, minimal wear, and potential errors can lead to exciting discoveries. A simple pocket change find could turn into a life-changing numismatic treasure. The story of the 1983 Washington Quarter is a testament to the hidden potential in everyday coins. While millions of these quarters were minted, only a select few have stood the test of time in pristine condition or as unique era coins. Whether you're a seasoned collector or a casual coin enthusiast, the possibility of finding a rare and valuable 1983 quarter makes the hunt all the more exciting. So next time you come across a 1983 Washington quarter, take a closer look. You might just be holding a fortune in your hands. Top 4. The 1986 Washington Quarter may seem like an ordinary piece of pocket change at first glance, but for coin collectors and enthusiasts, it holds a fascinating story of history, minting intricacies, and unexpected value. While millions of these quarters were produced, only a handful have emerged as rare and valuable treasures, with some reaching staggering auction prices. Imagine discovering a simple 25-cent coin that could be worth an astonishing $75,000. That's the mystery and magic behind the 1986 Washington Quarter. To truly appreciate this coin, we must first go back in time to understand the legacy of the Washington Quarter. Originally introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, the quarter quickly became a staple in American currency. Designed by sculptor John Flanagan, the obverse of the coin features a left-facing portrait of Washington, accompanied by the words, "Liberty," above his head and "In God We Trust," to the left. The reverse displays a majestic eagle perched on a bundle of arrows, signifying strength and preparedness, with olive branches below, symbolizing peace. For the first several decades of its existence, the Washington Quarter was struck in 90% silver. However, due to rising silver prices and the subsequent coin hoarding crisis, the U.S. Mint transitioned to a copper-nickel clad composition in 1965. By the time the 1986 quarter was minted, this clad composition had become the standard. While these quarters no longer contain silver, certain rare errors, varieties, and high-grade specimens have made some 1986 Washington quarters highly valuable. The U.S. Mint produced the 1986 quarter at two major facilities, Philadelphia and Denver. The Philadelphia Mint, which did not use a mintmark at the time, struck over 551 million quarters, while the Denver Mint, marked with a small d on the obverse, produced more than 504 million. In addition, the San Francisco Mint struck over 3 million proof quarters, primarily for collectors. Given these high production numbers, most 1986 quarters are common in circulated condition. However, as with all coins, rarity is not just about mintage numbers, it's about survival in pristine condition and the presence of unusual errors. Finding a 1986 Washington quarter in uncirculated condition is surprisingly challenging. Many of these coins were released directly into circulation, enduring years of wear, nicks, and scratches. Unlike earlier years where the U.S. Mint issued special mint sets for collectors, obtaining a flawless 1986 quarter required either finding one fresh from a bank roll or purchasing a proof set. As a result, high-grade specimens, particularly those graded MS-67 or higher by professional grading services like PCGS and NGC, are incredibly scarce. One of the primary reasons collectors seek out the 1986 Washington quarter is the potential for rare errors. Some of the most valuable error coins are those struck on planchets intended for other denominations. Occasionally, a Washington quarter is accidentally struck on a nickel or dime planchet, leading to unusual color differences, improper sizing, and misaligned designs. These errors are rare and can command thousands of dollars at auction. Another fascinating error found in some 1986 quarters is the doubled die variety. This occurs when the coin's design is struck twice slightly out of alignment, creating a doubling effect on letters or features. The most desirable double die varieties often show clear doubling in the inscriptions, "Liberty," or "In God We Trust," making them easily identifiable to keen-eyed collectors. Depending on the strength of the doubling and the coin's overall condition, these errors can fetch significant premiums. Some 1986 Washington quarters also exhibit off-center strikes. This error happens when the coin is not perfectly positioned within the press, causing the design to be struck off-center. In minor cases, the off-centering may be slight, but in extreme cases where a significant portion of the design is missing, the coin can be worth a substantial amount. Collectors highly prize off-center quarters, especially those that still have a full date visible. Another intriguing error is the missing clad layer quarter. This occurs when the nickel coating of the coin is not properly bonded to the copper core, leaving either a completely copper-colored quarter or a partially missing clad layer. These visually striking errors are among the most sought after among collectors and can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. While circulated 1986 Washington quarters are generally worth only their face value, those in pristine, uncirculated condition can command impressive sums. Coins that have been graded MS-65 or higher are far rarer than one might expect, and collectors are willing to pay significant premiums for them. An MS-67 quarter, for example, can fetch hundreds or even thousands of dollars due to its scarcity. But the ultimate prize is an exceptionally rare, high-grade, error-laden 1986 Washington quarter. In recent years, a near-perfect example with a unique combination of errors and immaculate preservation stunned the numismatic world when it sold for an unbelievable $75,000 at auction. This coin, featuring a dramatic minting mistake and flawless surfaces, exemplified the pinnacle of coin collecting rarity. For those hoping to strike numismatic gold, the best way to search for valuable 1986 Washington quarters is by carefully examining coin rolls, old collections, and estate sales. While finding a rare variety is no easy feat, the possibility of stumbling upon a valuable quarter in everyday change makes the hunt exhilarating. Every collector dreams of discovering a seemingly ordinary coin that turns out to be worth a fortune, and the 1986 Washington quarter offers that exact thrill. At the heart of this coin's appeal is its hidden potential. While millions were minted, only a select few have survived in extraordinary condition or as rare errors. Whether you're an experienced collector or a casual enthusiast, taking a closer look at your quarters could lead to an incredible discovery. Could a simple 1986 Washington quarter in your pocket be worth tens of thousands of dollars? It's certainly possible. So next time you find yourself holding a 1986 Washington quarter, take a moment to inspect it carefully. You never know. It might just be a $75,000 treasure hiding in plain sight. Top 5. The 1995 Washington quarter may appear as just another coin in your pocket, but beneath its everyday appearance lies a world of numismatic intrigue. For coin collectors and enthusiasts, certain editions of this quarter hold immense value due to their rarity, condition, and unique errors. Imagine finding a 25-cent coin that turns out to be worth a staggering $55,000, an unexpected treasure hidden in plain sight. To understand the significance of the 1995 Washington quarter, we must look back at the history of the series. First introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, the Washington quarter became a staple of U.S. currency. Designed by sculptor John Flanagan, the obverse of the coin features a left-facing portrait of Washington with the word, Liberty, above his head and, In God We Trust, to the left. The reverse depicts a powerful eagle with outstretched wings, perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches below, symbolizing America's strength and commitment to peace. For over 3 decades, the Washington quarter was made of 90% silver. However, due to the rising cost of silver and the subsequent hoarding of coins, the U.S. Mint switched to a copper-nickel-clad composition in 1965. By 1995, this clad composition had become standard, yet collectors still searched for rare varieties and high-grade specimens that could fetch impressive values in the numismatic market. The 1995 Washington quarter was struck at 3 major U.S. Mint facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint, which did not use a mintmark at the time, produced over 1 billion quarters, while the Denver Mint, marked with a small d on the obverse, struck nearly as many. The San Francisco Mint, known for producing collector-grade proof coins, struck over 2 million special proof quarters, which were made using highly polished dies to achieve a mirror-like finish. While these numbers suggest that the 1995 quarter is common, Rarity in coin collecting is determined not just by mintage but also by condition and errors. Finding a 1995 Washington quarter in pristine condition is a challenge. Most were released directly into circulation, enduring years of wear and tear. Collectors prize high-grade specimens, especially those graded MS67 or higher by professional services like PCGS and NGC. Such coins are exceptionally rare due to the difficulty in maintaining a flawless surface on a coin that has been in circulation for decades. The real excitement for collectors comes from error coins, minting mistakes that make a coin unique and highly valuable. Some of the most sought-after errors in the 1995 Washington quarter include coins struck on the wrong planchet. Occasionally, a quarter is mistakenly struck on a dime or nickel planchet, resulting in a smaller, misaligned design or unusual coloration. These error coins can command thousands of dollars depending on their rarity and condition. Another fascinating error found in some 1995 quarters is the double die variety. This occurs when the coin's design is struck twice slightly out of alignment, creating a doubling effect on the inscriptions or features. Collectors specifically look for doubling in the words, "Liberty," or "In God We Trust," as these are the most visually striking. Depending on the strength of the doubling and the overall condition of the coin, these errors can significantly increase its value. Off-center strikes are another highly desirable error. This happens when the coin is not perfectly positioned in the press, causing the design to be struck off-center. The most valuable off-center quarters are those where a large portion of the design is missing while still retaining a full date. Coins with extreme off-center errors can fetch thousands of dollars at auction. One of the most striking errors found in some 1995 quarters is the missing clad layer. This happens when the nickel coating of the coin fails to properly bond with the copper core, resulting in either a completely copper-colored quarter or a partially missing clad layer. These visually unique errors are among the most desirable for collectors and can sell for substantial amounts. While circulated 1995 Washington quarters are generally worth only their face value, those in uncirculated condition can be highly valuable. Coins graded MS65 or higher are rare, and collectors are willing to pay premium prices for them. An MS67 quarter, for example, can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars due to its scarcity in such high quality. But the most extraordinary find is a 1995 Washington quarter in near-perfect condition with a rare error. One such coin recently shocked the numismatic world when it sold for an astonishing $55,000 at auction. This particular quarter, featuring a dramatic minting mistake and pristine preservation, represented the pinnacle of rarity and desirability in coin collecting. For those looking to discover their own valuable 1995 Washington quarter, the best strategy is to carefully examine pocket change, coin rolls from banks, and old collections. While finding a rare variety is not guaranteed, the possibility of stumbling upon a fortune in loose change keeps the thrill alive for collectors. The idea that an everyday coin could turn out to be worth thousands fuels the excitement of the hunt. What makes the 1995 Washington quarter so intriguing is its hidden potential. Millions were minted, but only a select few have survived in extraordinary condition or with rare errors. Whether you are a seasoned collector or a casual coin enthusiast, taking a closer look at your quarters could lead to an incredible discovery. Could the next valuable 1995 quarter be in your possession? It's entirely possible. So, the next time you come across a 1995 Washington quarter, take a moment to inspect it carefully. You never know. It might just be a $55,000 treasure hiding in plain sight.